Hey guys, it's me Robin, RsIslandCrafts. You guys feel like sewing with me today? With Halloween right around the corner, I thought I'd make some table toppers. I happened to come across this one. There's several different places. I've seen them on Pinterest and on people's blogs and stuff where you take strips of fabric and you turn it into a hexagon table topper. So I went ahead and I took a jelly roll that I had of Halloween fabric and I just started picking out different ones and stitching them together. I'm going to go ahead and make a second one for the shop, link down below, and I thought you guys could sew along with me. You can make these for any holiday or for any occasion, or just use like black and white fabrics or purples or whatever happen to be your favorite colors or anything. They look really complicated, but I was really surprised at how easy it was. I went ahead and sewed this up yesterday, and I quilted it today and got the binding on, and tonight while watching TV I will hand stitch the binding to the back. It's a fun Halloween fabric. It would have been nice if maybe the pumpkins and the ghosts or the eyes or something glowed, but it's okay. It's still a cute fabric. What I've learned is if you use an even number, like this one I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh look, Robin can count. I use 6 fabrics. And the way you cut it is when you stitch it together, you're going to end up with alternating colors here and all the way around. So when we cut out this triangle, we're going to flip it and we're going to cut the opposite. So while this one had black on top, green on the bottom, this is the opposite, green on top, black on bottom. Now if you were to use an odd number, it would look a little bit different. And to see how that looked, I made a different one. This time I used springtime flavors, right. This time I used springtime colored fabrics. Green grass on the back. And I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look, I can still count. 5 is an odd number, obviously, so the strip in the center, which would be 3, stays consistent all the way around. So no matter how much you flip it, because we're still getting the alternating fabrics up here and all through, but when you have an odd number, it's going to stay the same. So if we were to do 7, the one down here would stay the same, and you can actually have a border all the way around it. I also made this one yesterday, quilted it today, and I will be hand sewing the binding tonight. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to choose out our 6 fabrics, and we're going to sew it all together and make a strip set. Now this one I used the 2.5 inch strips, and because of that, one strip set wasn't enough. What I had to do for my topper, as you can see right here, I had to sew a few pieces together to get enough fabric. So with this one we're going to use 2-inch wide fabrics, and when you use the 2-inch wide fabrics and 6 strips, you're going to be able to get the 6 pieces out that you need. Since this one only used 5, I was okay using the 2.5 inch strips. Now these are the 6 that I chose. Now remember our center, that we want to have contrast. Well, in my center I want to have contrast. Now I could choose 2 fabrics that are very, very similar, or use 2 of the same strips at the top and the bottom of my strip set, and this center would be solid. But I kind of like the contrasting colors there. So I went with a black on one end and a white on the other. I added some stripes for fun, and then just another couple black and white prints, and this one has a little orange in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew these together into a strip set. When you sew things into a strip set, if you were to sew each one to the next right along the way, sometimes your strip set will get a little wavy. And to avoid that, we're going to sew 2 together, 2 together, and 2 together. And we're going to sew them from left to right. And then afterwards, we're going to sew each set of 2 back together from right to left. Once you get messing around with everything, sometimes you get confused which way you went. So what I do is I take on the ends, all on one side. This will be in the selvage, and I'll just take a permanent pen and I'll just make a little mark on it. And the first time I sew everything together, I'll make sure all of these little black ticks are on the left hand side. So then when I sew it together the next time, I'll know to start at the side that doesn't have any of these marks. You could put a pin in it. You could just take your chances. But for me, I find it easier just to put a little mark. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch these all together. and then I'll come back and we'll talk about ironing. Okay, my strip set is all sewn. We don't have to worry about the ends being uneven because we're going to lose that when we do it. I ended up labeling my fabrics 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 just so I didn't have to keep coming back and rewinding the video to see exactly the layout I had. Now when I sewed them, I put 1 to 2 and then I ironed them. And then I 3 to 4 and iron those 2. You could sew all 6 together and iron them all at the same time, but for me it just kind of gets a little bit too cumbersome that way. The main thing is when you iron them that they all your seams have to be ironed to the same direction. Whether it's to your top or your bottom, it's not going to matter. This is going to help us when we're putting them together and nesting the seams. Now if you choose to, you can iron them open and that would accomplish the same thing, but I prefer to have them ironed all in one direction. Here's one of the triangles from a different Halloween hexagon table topper I'm working on. This is what we're going to be cutting out of our other strip set. It's a 60-degree triangle. They have special rulers that you can purchase, the rotary cutter rulers that are shaped like a 60-degree triangle, and then you can just cut them out around like that. I don't have one of those yet, but since I've been falling in love with this project, I'll probably be picking up one. But I'm going to use my regular long ruler. It has the 60-degree marks, the angles, lines right on it for us, and we're going to use those. I made this strip set using 2-inch strips. The finished measurement of this strip set is 9 inches wide. Don't ask me about the math. I don't know how these triangle things work, but we're going to be able to get 6 of the 60-degree triangles out of this. If you were to make it any wider, like when I made the one for the larger Halloween one I showed you previously, I used 2.5 inches for those. That was my mistake for not properly reading. So I could only get 5 out of my strip set. So I would need to make 2 strip sets to get 1 hexagon table topper. If you had a different fabric, let's say you really liked this one with the spider webs and the spiders on it, and you wanted to use a 4-inch strip, you can do that. It's just that the wider your strip set gets, more than 9 inches, you're going to need to make 2 strip sets. You can make them both identical, so there's only 2 strip sets of fabric used throughout your hexagon table topper, or you can use 2 different ones and you'll have a variety. You can use 6 different ones if you want. I think it would look really good with some of the larger strips, maybe a 3-inch strip and then maybe some narrow black ones or any other contrasting color based on what color fabrics you were using. I think that would look really nice too. But for today, this is the one we're using. It is 9 inches wide by the width of fabric. Here we go. Just to make it easier for me to cut, I am going to go on the opposite side of the table from you because you're right next to me and in my way. But that's what friends are for, right? Get in each other's way. Alright, so here is my 60-degree line, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of tape and this is a washi tape, and I'm just going to put it just past the line so that my eye will automatically go right to that line. So that line is going to line up at the top. Oh, it's a lot of lines. But we're going to put that line right at the top of our strip of fabric, and down at the other end we're going to slide it down until we're on this very first one right here. We want to get on this side of the selvage. We don't want any of the selvage in our project. Anything under the ruler here is going to be cut off and put away for our scrap bin. We'll have to figure out a new project to use those. So we're going to be cutting our triangle off on this side so we can go all the way to the edge and not worry about any of the other fabrics. Okay, double check. We're all lined up. We're at the corner. And then we just slice it. Slide it down a little. Now we're going to take that same 60-degree line and we're going to line it up with the side of the triangle pyramid we just cut. And we want our point to come right at the tip of the ruler there. So make sure everything's lined up. Make sure we're coming right up to the tip, and we're just going to cut it off. And there's our first. Now we're back to lining it up along the top, and we're going to get this point right here against our ruler. and slice it off. Now we can already kind of see how our little table topper is going to look. I'm just going to go ahead and finish cutting the rest of these, and then we'll meet back. Okay, there's my 6 different ones, and I still have this big piece left over, so I'm going to cut some extra, and then I'm just going to keep it in a container and add more to it, and then I'll just have a really scrappy one next time. I haven't made enough. Every time I make one, there's a different amount of fabric left over, so I'm really not sure. It has a lot to do with the width of your fabric. Because like I said, with the 2.5 inch strips, I only got 5, and this one I'm getting 7. So I'll have this extra one, and then I'll have these 2 pieces. I won't be, obviously can't get one out of that. But I can make a smaller one out of that. Alright, I'm back over on your side now. Now let's see how we're going to stitch these together. So you just alternate your white and black tips all the way around, and this is what it looks like. From there all the way to there. We're going to sew it in halves. I'm going to sew this one to this one to this one, then the same thing on the other side. And we're going to iron the seams open, and then we're going to stitch each half together. I'll be right back. Before I go sew, I thought I'd tell you about how we're going to do this. I forgot the important part. We have to nest our seams. Since we ironed one seam this way, excuse my fingers, I had green nail polish on the other day and it doesn't all come off. But you have one seam folded this way and one seam folded that way. When you take your 2 fabrics and you just kind of slide them together, you'll feel these 2 locked together, and that's called nesting the seam or locking the seam. Everyone who tells you about nesting and locking your seam says it's really obvious. And if you haven't done it yet, you won't believe it. But once you do, you'll understand. Go ahead and put a pin in here if you choose to. I'm just going to hold it, and then as each seam comes by, I'll adjust them to make sure that they're in the right spot. But you can put a pin in each spot if you'd like. And we're going to sew all the way down to the bottom. Alright, my 2 halves are sewn together. And I ironed my seams open. So I'm just going to go ahead and put these right sides together. Once again, I'm going to nest the seams. Oh, one of the things, when I was sewing my triangles together, I started the bottom part. It's a lot easier than starting at the tip, because that tip is going to get sucked into your sewing machine. If you look at our centers here, this is basically the tip is a 1/4 inch away. If you want to have all your centers to meet nicely, what we're going to do is we're going to definitely pin this time. I take a pin, and I want to go through, I want to find that can you see my pin there? I want to put it right into the point. And then I want to take that pin and I want to put it right into the point of the next one. Right there at the very, very tip. And that pin, then when I know, as I'm stitching, so then as I'm stitching, I'll know 1, that's both of my points are matched together, and then 2, I want to stay a 1/4 inch, so that, you know, I'm going to sew right a 1/4 inch along the edge right here, so I don't chop off those little points there. Will it work? We'll soon find out, won't we? It'll be a surprise. We'll find out together. Okay, moment of truth. Let's see what we got. Now, before I open this up, if your center's not perfect, it's okay. Don't worry about it. This is going to be a table topper. Chances are you're going to put a pumpkin or a turkey or some type of decoration, a candle, in the center of this. No one's going to see it. If your center's not perfect, first of all, your family's probably never even going to know because they're not quilters. And if they say something, just tell them to be quiet. If they don't like it, they can make it themselves next time. If you're making it for a gift and you're concerned about the center, you can put a button in the center You could put an applique. You can make a teeny tiny hexagon and cover it up. And there's mine. Mine's not absolutely perfect, but you know what? It's pretty darn close and I'm happy with it. So let me go ahead and iron these. I'm going to iron this last seam open also, and then I'll be back. Now since we ironed our seams open, the last set of seams, everything is laying nice and flat. We don't have all that extra bulk, because if we'd have tried to push them over to one side or the other, in the center there would have been a lot of bulk. It'd have been much harder to get even as close as we got. See, and the further away you get from it, you don't even notice the center as much. We used 6 2-inch strips, and our final table topper ended up being just shy of 17 inches from one side to the other. And from point to point, it's just under 20 inches from here to here. So now I have another one that I need to go ahead and quilt and get that all set up. This one will be going into the shop also, as I said. So if you really like it, keep an eye out for it. Link will be down below in the shop. The stripes kind of make it a little mesmerizing. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave it down below in the comments. If I can't just answer it down there, I'll go ahead and make another video for you to show you whatever it is you need to know, because I think I'm addicted to making these now, and I don't mind making a few more. Until the next time we sew together, bye!